Okay, so hopefully you finished the last video and you've had a go at playing around with the blueprints, and hopefully you've got some kind of interactive lighting system set up like this. So when you go into the area, um, it turns on the lights and things like that. Okay, and then we're going to progress on with that to do some more interactivity. And this time what we're going to do, obviously we're creating a real basic first-person shooter game. So we need some stuff to actually shoot at. So again, that works in a similar way to the way we did with the lighting, whereas we need to create a new blueprint for an interactive object. And the interactive object is obviously the thing that we're going to be firing at. Okay, so what we're going to do, when you've loaded up your project, go to the first person BP folder, into this blueprints folder. You can actually, if you wanted to, on that note, you could create your own new folders and organize your stuff how you want to, but I'm just going to keep everything here for now. So if you want to follow along with what I'm doing, then put yours in the same place. So there you can see as our interactive light that we made last time. So again, what we're going to do is right click in the empty space and go up to blueprint class. This one, what we'll get to is we'll get to adding some kind of AI to it so that it can like chase us around, but at the moment it's just going to be stationary. So we're going to use this actor class. Okay, so select that. I'm just going to call it enemy type 1, something like that, because we'll probably have a couple of different types. And again, so once you've created it, double click it and it'll open it up in its separate window, same way we did with the light again. So this time though, we're going to actually create an object that's going to be the thing we're going to be firing at. So you're going to go up to component, and for now I'm just going to make it a cube. So just select cube, and you can see your cube here in the viewport. So if you wanted, and you had created a 3D model, again in like a separate 3D modeling package, then you could have imported that, and over here where it says static mesh, you could change that to your 3D model that you imported. As I said, we're not going to be going that far into this, probably not anyway with timing, so we're just using the things that are built into the engine already. So for now, just keep it as a cube. That's fine. We don't really need to do anything else with that, apart from you might want to change the scale, but for now that's fine. And also we need to go to add component, and the same as before, we need to have add in a box collision. Okay, so that box collision by default is smaller than this cube that I've added in. So I'm going to go over to scale, turn up to 2 times bigger, just so that, you know, when we hit it, it's the box collision that is actually detecting that it's being hit rather than the box itself. Okay, so we've got those 2 things in there, and then we can go over to the event graph. Remember, as before, you have these default events in there. I always select them all and just delete them because, I don't know, I prefer to start from scratch each time. And it's probably better for you to do that when you're learning. So the event that we want to trigger something happening to this blueprint, to this interactive object, is it gets hit by something, right? So all we need to get is event hit. Okay, but what I actually want to do is I want to make it a bit more specific. So I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to come over to the collision box and make sure that's selected. And then right click in here, add event for the box, collision, add on component hit. Okay, so this is almost exactly what we did before, where we had the begin overlap. This is just on hit. So add on component hit, and it's in brackets of the box because it's the collision box that we've got as the thing that's being hit. Okay, We'll start by creating it in just its most simple form, which is when it gets hit, just search for destroy actor. Okay, because it's destroying an actor blueprint, and you can change what it destroys. So if your game you had it so you had to fire at some target and then it actually destroyed something else for some reason, then you could change the target to another actual object. But in this case, the target is itself. So when it gets hit, it's itself that gets destroyed. Okay, so again, click compile at the top to make sure that the code is working, and it is. It's pretty simple. So if we close that down and just test this, so here's my enemy type 1. And you can see it's the cube with the collision box around it, the way we made it. So I push play and I go over to it and I fire at it. It's gone. It gets destroyed. Okay. So you could copy and paste maybe a few of them. You could go into enemy type. You could go to the viewport, select the cube, and you could change the material over here that's on it. So by default it'll be white. So if I wanted it to be lots of different things here. Let's just pick any old thing. Steel. Let's make it a steel box. Okay, close that. You can see then that the material is on each one. And obviously I can just go and fire at them and they get destroyed. Okay, but we want it to be a little bit more complex than that. What we're going to do is we're going to have it so that when you actually fire and hit them, then you actually get like a score system, and then eventually we'll add like health and things like that, but one thing at a time. But before we progress any further, just want to add in something to make it visually more interesting when it gets hit. In the starter content, in particles, there is like an explosion effect. Okay, we're going to apply that to the blueprint so that when it gets hit, it's like an explosion as it disappears. So I'll show you how to do that. So open up your blueprint again for the box. And now this time from the event, you want it to spawn an emitter at location. Okay, so it's spawning that particle effect is known as an emitter, and it's spawning that at the location when this happens. Okay, so then after that, then it gets destroyed. So we just need to tell it what that location is. So out of location, we need to look for get world location. Okay, and the target is going to be of this box here. It could be the cube actually, either. It could be either or because they're in the same place. And link that up. So the location that it's going to spawn this is in the world location of the collision box. Okay, so that's going to be wherever the box is that you've placed it. Okay, so that should all work. So if we compile that, we get a tick. Close that down. Okay, that's not worked immediately. That's fine. Okay, that's why. So when I come back in here, see where it says emitter template. I haven't actually selected which one I want it to play. So it could essentially play any of those, but we want it to play the explosion one. So compile that again. And let's try again. There you go. So you hit it and you get this kind of little explosion to show that they've been hit, basically. Okay. Cool. So that's it for now. Obviously get that set up and working before we do anything else. So what I've done, to recap, is I just created the blueprint class as an actor. We added a box, changed the material if you want to, and added a box collision around it. In the event graph, we've got the event is on component hit, hitting that collision box. Then what happens next is going to spawn the emitter at the location in the world that the box is, and then it destroys itself. Okay, so just a slightly more complicated blueprint than the last one. Okay, and then next we'll move on to the next thing. Okay.